Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Force Awakens video. We have covered a lot of topics in regards to this, so before I go anywhere else, I will say there are spoilers. We covered why it's completely asinine for people to think that Luke is Kylo Ren. We covered why Kylo Ren, who is Han Solo's son Ben Solo, why he killed him at the end of the film. We covered why I thought that even though The Force Awakens was just like A New Hope in the original trilogy, that was alright. So now we're going to talk about bringing it back to a very important character of the film, Kylo Ren himself. He is our new bad guy, the new Darth Vader, if you will. Obviously, people would say, how dare you compare him to Darth Vader? That's not what I mean. I'm just referring to the fact that he is the central bad guy that our attention focuses on. I mean, think about it. He's on all the merch. He's on the blankets, the shirts, the pants, the posters, the, I don't know, fucking toy boxes, the sleds, the, I don't know, beds that you cry yourself to sleep on every night, the heroin syringes you shoot up. I don't know. The guy's on everything. And he's pretty cool. Now, people were honestly upset about everything about this guy. They expected another Darth Vader. Now, what they don't realize is, one, you can't do Darth Vader again. Why? Because people will be like, oh, you did Darth Vader again. People were already bitching enough as it was that Force Awakens had so many similarities to the original trilogy. So they changed it up a little bit. They were bitching about the crossguard lightsaber, which, if they did a little research, would find out was an ancient Sith design. His lightsaber crystal is on focus through use of Kyber, and that's why it looks like that and it's so jagged and razor-like. People were bitching about how he took Revan's look. That's something I agree with because I am a huge Darth Revan fan. We're going to talk about him coming up in this video. But most of all, people bitched that Kylo Ren himself was a little bitch. Now, I would have to disagree with this. First of all, he has emotional issues, yes. But at the same time, so did Darth Vader. Yeah, he didn't go around like, I'm so upset, gonna destroy this room, But still, he was very full of hatred and anger, and quite most likely regret. And he took that out in a very violent, very militant, very strategic way. Kylo Ren is neither as old as Darth Vader, or mature, or wise. He's young, and he is very unstable in his emotions, and thus they come out in all terrible ways. But let's think about this. What is the Sith code? Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall set me free. That's the code of the Sith. Now, the code of the Jedi, I don't have that as well memorized, but it's the whole, there is no passion, only peace. There is blah, blah, blah. There's no ignorance, there's knowledge, there's a Force, whatever. But that first line, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Now, don't tell me, when you see Kylo Ren, you don't see some form of passion there. It's a emotional turmoil, but it is an utter expression of emotion. It's hatred, it's anger, it's fear, it's confusion, but it manifests itself in a dark way. Kylo Ren is afraid of not being as good as his grandfather, as not being as good as Darth Vader. He knows that he will not be the militant, strategist, and powerful, fortitudinous leader that Vader is, but yet he still has a passion to somehow be as good, to somehow make his grandfather proud. He has a passion to be evil. Now, whether or not you can say this is mature or just some childish thing, what have you, that's off the table. That's a different discussion. But it's there. His emotions run very high. And the Sith believe in letting emotions fuel their abilities. They do not shun away from emotions, as the Jedi do. They embrace them and use them to help themselves, to better connect to the Force. So if that's the case, then isn't Kylo Ren one of the greatest Force users of all time? I wouldn't say that. That is an incorrect argument. But he is well connected to the Force because he has this utter upsurge of emotions that indeed make his usage of the Force unstable, but yet at the same time, very violent and very volatile. So, yes, he's not the most powerful Sith Lord ever, but he's got some very powerful abilities. At the very beginning of the film, we see him stop a blaster bolt mid-air and hang it there without even having to concentrate on it. Now someone could say, oh, why didn't he do that in the rest of the film? Because it was just a trope because it wanted to look cool. It was convenient to plot hole. Fuck that. We're just talking within the film itself. We're not looking at all these things. He stopped a blaster bolt mid-air. He didn't have to concentrate. After he left the scene, it was still hanging there. And it wasn't a normal blaster bolt. It was something more powerful from Poe Dameron's gun. He just stopped it there. It was dead. He didn't have to concentrate on it. He got down, he interrogated Poe, he walked away, told them to kill all the villagers, and only then, a couple minutes later, did it finally make impact. That is a showing of power. So, well, why didn't he do it any other time? His passions were running high then. He was thinking he was about to get the map to Skywalker. He was thinking he was right there and about to do it, and his life was in immediate danger. His emotions flared up, and he was able to pull it off. That's the thing. The Sith have an emotion and feeling-based connection to the Force and use it as their power, not as their burden. And that's what happened there. Also, the guy has a hell of a constitution. Near the end of it, after he kills Han, Chewie shoots him with the bowcaster. Now, this clearly is not the same bowcaster that we saw in the original trilogy, because this thing creates mini explosions. This could wipe out entire battalions of stormtroopers. It even wiped out the fan-favorite TR-8R, traitor! But Kylo Ren took it like a man. He got blown away by it, but he just got back up and then went into the lightsaber fight and kept going. Even that couldn't stop him. He had a direct ability to pull information out of one's mind. He didn't have to persuade them or sense it. If they were unwilling, all he had to do was just literally pull it out, like a pensieve from Harry Potter, as someone took thoughts out of their mind. That's all he had to do. He didn't even have to force them. He didn't have to try and read them. So perhaps you could say, oh, he's not powerful enough, he couldn't read them. Yes, true, but some people are built against that. Just as they're also built about extracting thoughts from the mind, he could do that. And it was more than just reading a general emotion or feeling. He was pulling out specific facts. It's very powerful. Now someone could say, oh, his lightsaber skills weren't so good. Think about it. The First Order is practically unchallenged in this galaxy. Luke was the only Jedi left, and he's in exile on some unknown world. Kylo Ren has not had to fight anything more than resistance troops with blasters. That is easy as hell for a Force user. He could easily crush them. The First Order could easily crush them without any difficulty. He hasn't fought a Force user in some time. We could safely assume the last time he came in contact with any form of Force user was when he struck down his fellow students at Luke's training academy. That was the last time. That was unexpected, that was cold blood, and those were unwilling targets. Since then, the First Order has steamrolled the galaxy. He has not been challenged. We know he's still in training. He may lead the Knights of Ren, but he's still in training. He's not Lord Vader. He's not the commander of the Empire. Because we see there's a power battle between Kylo Ren and General Hux going on. So, one can infer, he's not at the top of the ladder. He's just another person in it, maybe even just a pawn, and we'll see something more. And if people are complaining that Kylo Ren wasn't well developed, I understand people are complaining about Snoke, but what the fuck does that guy do? He just sits there as a hologram and talks and says, you must do this, come here, you're your father, blah 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 blah. At least Kylo Ren's doing stuff. Snoke's the one who people should be bitching about, and of course they are, but they're really ragging on this guy. They're saying, he's such a crybaby. Well, don't you think you would be in this situation? Your father and mother are the hero saviors of the galaxy. Your uncle is the man who defeated the Emperor and Darth Vader. You have a lot to live up to. The call of the dark side is strong in the Skywalker family. Don't you think that it would be a lot to deal with the darkness and the light raging inside of you, all the while trying to live up to such a lofty thing? He took the easy way out. His emotions, which clearly Kylo Ren is an emotional-driven being, Ben Solo is that way, and it won out. He gave in to the easy path of destruction and struck down his friends, attacked Luke, and ran. Honestly, that's the easy route of everything. It's tough to stay a light Jedi. He's emotion-driven, he's very impulsive, and kept with it. He's not Darth Vader. He wants to be, but he's not. And that's what makes him interesting. He's more insecure as a result because he knows he will not have the military tactician-like aspect of Darth Vader. So instead, he makes up for it in sheer, unrelenting, over-the-top, unnecessary brutality. Now, Vader was very bad too, but Vader was cool, calm, collected. He didn't give a single fuck. Kylo Ren flips a shit, screams, cries, whatever. But this is different. Kylo Ren is a tortured soul. He's most likely what Anakin was like during his early times as Darth Vader, in between episodes 3 and 4 that we never saw. But people seem to think Darth Vader is the unrelenting badass. And while that's true after a time, we don't know what some of his character development was like. And also, people also forget, up until the end of Empire, Vader was very, very one-dimensional. Yes, I am evil. I will kill my master. I want to rule the galaxy. The Death Star will destroy planets. Brr, 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 brr. Until we find out that he's Luke's father and that introduces a slew of complexities to his character, he's just very one-dimensional, black suit, red lightsaber, very evil. In this, we immediately have complexity introduced to Kylo Ren when we learn of his backstory. He's not one-dimensional, and people need to keep that in mind. So, about him not being powerful, and because he sucked at lightsaber combat. Is he some weak little bitch like people make him out to be? No. He took a bowcaster right to the body and kept going. He could stop blaster bolts mid-air and not even concentrate on them, and could fight what could be the next line in the Skywalker family and hold his own slightly decently for a time, even after getting shot very painfully by Chewie's blaster. In the end, yes, he did get defeated by someone who was not experienced in lightsaber combat, but was very well experienced in melee combat, as we saw when Rey was fighting off the Raiders on Jakku. So the fact that she knew how to handle a lightsaber is not all that unbelievable when we think about the fact that she was really good with her weapons when she was on Jakku. And Kylo Ren probably spent more time bitching and crying than actually training. Now, he probably was, but it's different when you're fighting someone of her caliber, even if she's very early on in the Force and it's just awakening in her as per the title. She's clearly had a lifetime of experience. We don't know how long Kylo Ren has been into this when he became Kylo Ren from Ben Solo. We don't know these things. But when you compare him to other Sith Lords, people think, oh, he doesn't stack up. Let's take a look at some of them. Obviously, we've been talking about Darth Vader. What about Darth Sidious? Master planner, played both sides. He played the Republic and the Confederacy against each other and created a absolute galactic-wide war that he led on both sides and turned it into the Galactic Empire. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of intelligence. He was also a Master Force user and a decent lightsaber combatant. He was very, very powerful. Let's go back even further. Obviously, we all know of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. He could create life from midichlorians and save others from dying. Yeah, we all know that. But further back, let's talk about the old Republic. Talk about people like Darth Revan, Darth Nihilus, Darth Sion. 3 of the greatest Sith Lords to ever live. Darth Revan, the one true Grey Jedi, the man who inspired an unwilling Jedi group to go out and change their minds and fight the Mandalorian Wars. The Council advised everything against it, and Revan inspired masses of students to go out and fight the Mandalorian threat. Revan single-handedly defeated Mandalore the Ultimate in single combat at the height of the Mandalorian Wars at Malachor V. He faced him down, and then himself and his apprentice were able to somewhat stand their own against Lord Vitiate on Dromund Kaas after the Mandalorian Wars had ended. True, in the end, they were subjugated and forced to find the Starforge for him, but they weren't outright destroyed, and then were able to break free of his influence once they had found the Starforge for themselves. Revan survived being almost assassinated by both the Jedi and his former apprentice. He then had a programmed new identity and came back and killed Malak, destroyed the Starforge, and made everything right and redeemed a fallen Bastila Shan at the end of KOTOR. Revan then went off to try and find Lord Vitiate again because something was calling him to the Outer Rim in Dromund Kaas, and the rest is the MMO bullshit that we won't get into. But Revan mastered both the light and the dark and was one of the finest lightsaber combatant and Force user beings ever. As well, Darth Nihilus the true being of hunger, something spawned of the Mandalorian Wars. The destruction of Malachor 5 gave birth to the hungering, ceaseless, empty entity that is Darth Nihilus. A being that consumes entire planets to satisfy a never-ending hunger. A being who speaks with the voice of damned souls. A being who is not physical, not material, but still somehow exists within our plane. A being whose ship, the Ravager, is physically impossible due to all of its structural holes, but still manages to hold itself together purely through dark side force energy. A being who consumes entire worlds. Darth Nihilus, something created out of a planet's destruction, who is able to suck the very essence of life and force being from an entire planet system. Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain, the Lord of Suffering, a being so filled with hatred and pain that he cannot die. He embodies pain and suffering into his body, lets the dark side run through him, so that no matter how many times he is struck down, whatever he is put through, he will come back 1,000 times stronger. Sion exists in a constant state of pain, in a constant state of agony and anguish. He has no moments of pleasure, of peace in his life. He is always in screaming, awful, violent pain, yet holds it all inside and transfers it into dark side combative energy. Darth Sion cannot be defeated unless he wills it. He is the embodiment of rage, suffering, and yet still manages to fight on like an unrelenting force. We have many other Sith Lords to go through, but we couldn't do them now. But what about one more? Someone like Meetra Surik. Not necessarily a Sith Lord, but a Jedi. The Jedi Exile. A woman who is a wound in the Force, an empty space that intentionally severed her connection to the Force to save herself from the crushing power of all the deaths at Malachor 5 when she activated the mass shadow generator, who then restored her own connection to the Force and managed to not only defeat Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus, but was able to survive a betrayal by Darth Traya herself and then go on to defeat her in the heart of Darkside power at the Trayus Academy at the core of Malachor 5. After fighting through all of Traya's minions, managed to inspire a party full of different people to follow her. Even Mandalore, Canderous, a person she had fought against, inspired him to follow her. Found all the hidden Jedi Masters, was able to face off against the greatest Sith Lords of all time, followed Revan to war, and yet still managed, but became a wound and death in the Force that could conceivably, if allowed unchecked, bring utter destruction and ruin to the Force itself. Meetra Surik, light or dark, is the end of the Force. Now compared to these things, Kylo Ren, yes, is not a badass, but keep in mind, he has not shown his true potential. He could, if given enough power and given enough ability, he could become an unstable powerhouse of fiery, flaming rage. He could become the Lord of Rage, an utter embodiment of the Sith marauder, and mercilessly tear his way through the galaxy, if his character progresses well enough. Sure, Kylo Ren may not be able to stand up against the greats like Nihilus, Sion, Revan, and Meetra Surik, Sidious, Plagueis, or Vader. But yet, we've only seen him in one movie, and he has much left to go. So I think people are being a little unfair to him. We have not watched him develop yet, but his fiery rage and confusion and anguish and almost teen-like angst will allow the Force in him to become even more potent and volatile. And we'll see a lot more from him, I'm quite sure of it. All we have to do is wait for it to progress. I think it's far too early to make a judgment about Kylo Ren. I could be all wrong. We could find out Kylo Ren is literally just an emo bitch who sits in his room and just crawling in my skin. But I mean, we don't know that, so we can't make a judgment. I'll remain hopeful for now, but we don't know. That's all I have to say about that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kenshin. I'm peacing the fuck out. See you guys later. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Kenshin Mizuhara here once again, and once again we are talking about The Force Awakens. We've covered a lot of topics on it. We covered why the fact that people thought that Luke was Kylo Ren was one of the most asinine things ever. We covered talking about why Kylo Ren did what he did at the end of the film. Spoilers, he is Han Solo's father. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Force Awakens video. We have covered a lot of